boys and girls, it's that time again. It's time for the Successful Home Inspector Show, where we're here to share some funny home inspection stories, maybe some funny things that you found, how to increase your business. We're going to hear some success stories, maybe some stories that weren't so successful. Maybe we can learn from it. And we're going to share some resources here with you that help increase your business, and we're hoping to help raise the level of the industry as well. So sit back, and here's your host for the Successful Home Inspector Show, Preston Sandlin. Thanks a lot. Are you struggling to make your home inspection business grow? Well, have I got the answer for you. Homeinspectionflyers.com. At homeinspectionflyers.com, you get 5 flyers a month. There are 3 sales flyers and 2 recipe flyers. And you can customize them to exactly what you want. And these make great flyers when you go to the offices to put in their boxes, especially if you're doing like candy bowls or something along that nature. Like I said, it's 5 flyers a month for $29.99, and they're very creative, and you just put in your information. They come as a publisher file, and you just put in your information, and then you send them off to get printed. You can send them off online, and you can get color copies for less than 10 cents a copy. It's a great way to go. I went from being a 1-man home inspection firm to a 7-man home inspection firm on this one strategy alone. So try it today. Homeinspectionflyers.com. Thanks.
I am here with Matt Smith, who is the marketing expert, in charge of marketing for TexInspect in Dallas-Fort Worth, and also the Millionaire Inspector community, which is also a coaching system for home inspectors. Matt's got, I think he's been in the business for a couple of years now, but before that, he was also in online marketing. So he has, and he's also a musician. I knew that. I think he's a drummer. So he's got a varied background, and I like that. Maybe he can share a lot of different things with us, and maybe make us look at things from a different perspective. So without further ado, Matt Smith, we're glad to have you on the call, and tell us a little bit about you, because we'd like to get to know you personally.
Perfect. Well, good morning, first of all, Preston. It's good to be on here with you. I have a kind of a different background as to how I got into the home inspection industry. I started out working in radio, and of course, you mentioned, I am a musician. So when I first started out, I wanted to be a musician, and I decided I was going to get a degree talking about music instead of just playing it. So that's where I kind of got the broadcasting background. In 2009, the broadcasting industry really took a nosedive, and it became hard for me to find work in a commercial station. I was trying to move away from my work in the non-commercial sector, which I guess would be the station I was working at was similar to a NPR or things like that, so non-commercial radio.
Right.
I found myself kind of working in the online field for a little while. I was in business for myself at one point, but, I was 25 at the time. I didn't know what I didn't know. And found myself, my partner kind of just pulled me aside on Halloween one night and told me he was closing down the business, and I figured, well, what am I going to do? I happened to be working with kind of as a client for a gentleman by the name of Mike Crow at the time, who of course, runs the Millionaire Inspector community, also has a bit of a role at TexInspect, which is the company I do the marketing for and manage the marketing for. And Mike found out I was in between jobs and offered to take me on as his apprentice, and the rest, as they say, is history. So.
Okay, cool. Now, you mentioned, kind of how you got into this, but I want to go back even further than that, because none of us even really knew what home inspections were when we were kids. Tell us, did you grow up in that area, and what did you want to be when you were a kid?
Okay. Well, I did not grow up in the area of home inspections. In fact, I didn't even originally grow up in the area of Dallas, a Midwestern boy by birth. Grew up in about 2 hours outside of Minneapolis, Minnesota. Found myself heading down to Phoenix, Arizona, and then I bounced over to Texas. When I was a kid, I wanted to be a basketball player, actually. Of course, My basketball skills were a little bit somewhat lacking, as I found out when I actually tried to work in, intramural and start playing basketball. Still love playing basketball, but I certainly wasn't going to be the next Dirk Nowitzki or anything like that. After that, I decided maybe I wanted to be a doctor, and finally, around 10 years old, I really got into music. Originally, it was because, when I was a kid, I was kind of a chubby, awkward kid. And around 10 years old, you start to think, well, I'd kind of like to, meet women, and girls no longer have hoodies or anything like that. And I certainly wasn't going to meet women with any of my sports skills. So I got into music, and I specifically got into playing drums because I figured, well, every band needs a drummer, so it's kind of my in. No matter what, I'm going to be a musician.
Right.
So that's exactly what I wanted to do when I was a kid was be a musician, and I actually did chase that dream for a little while. I tried to make a go of it in my early 20s as playing as a career musician, and it's a bit of a tough grind. So I found that it's much more fulfilling for me to do it as my passion, and then actually have a career as well.
Well, I'm very similar to you, Matt, in that way, but mine's art. My mom was an artist, just part-time. She told me, son, you got to die before you can become a famous artist. And I said, well, that doesn't sound too appealing. But it's the same sort of thing, that idea of being a starving artist didn't appeal to me very much. But I still do it as a passion on the side, and that's cool. That's cool. Good story. Well, let's get back to home inspections. And I'm sorry, I'm the one that took us off of that rabbit trail, but hey, it's good stuff. Matt, tell us, I guess you've been in the business now about 3 years. Tell me the change, because this changes rapidly. What changes have you seen in those 3 years?
Oh, the changes I've seen have been incredible, actually. It's really why I have a big passion for the home inspection industry. Is the biggest change I've seen is a paradigm shift in mindset in how we do our business. We, as home inspectors and professionals in the inspection industry, we're starting to see ourselves not just as inspectors, not just as the people who do the technical side of the inspection, but there's a real big mind shift right now towards seeing ourselves not just as inspectors, but as business owners. And that is an awesome change to be seen in the industry.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. And I think most home inspectors usually seem to come from some trade, whether it be electrician, a contractor or something, and they're really good technician and they're technician-minded. But as they move into business, they not only have to be a technician, but they have to be a business owner. And it's a whole new ball game. Well, tell me this, Matt, how many inspectors does Tech Inspect have?
Tech Inspect has right now 11 inspectors. We also have 2 in training. And we're also actually looking to hire our next inspector on to train up. So right now 11, 2 in training, and then we're looking for the next one.
Cool. Well, tell me, Matt, and I know you kind of are more on the marketing side, but I know you probably got your fingers on the pulse of this too. Do you guys have a training process? And I know the guys come in with varied experience, but do you have a training process? And tell us more about that. What's that look like?
Okay, absolutely. We do have a training process. In my opinion, I think our training process is quite top-notch. We have our guys come in, and they do have varying degrees of experience. We've even trained inspectors pretty much from the ground up. We've also trained inspectors that have already had their license but are looking to go ahead and work for somebody instead of going into business for themselves. And that's one thing that might be a little bit different in Texas than in other areas of the country. Is in Texas, licensing is required. I know that's not necessarily the case in every single state, but the inspectors at that point, they will do some work in the office, learning from our general manager, Jonathan, of course, who was a third-generation home inspector, so he has a lot of experience. Jonathan's been inspecting since 18 years old, so he's one of the youngest inspectors actually out there, too, when he started. And then they'll go out on inspections with some of our more tenured inspectors. They'll go out with our inspector manager, Charles. They'll learn how to write reports the way we do it, because we at TexInspect do our reports on site. And we actually do have a stress training as well, which is kind of our graduation for the inspectors, really, where Jonathan and Charles, our general manager and inspector manager, respectively, will come to do they'll basically do a mock inspection with the inspector, where one will play home buyer and the other will play buyer's agent, and they will basically see how the inspector inspects. And just as importantly, they'll judge the home inspector's bedside manner, the way they deal with stress, the way they answer their questions, the way they can handle who sometimes can be difficult customers or clients. And judging by that whole sphere, we determine whether or not they're ready to be then put out in the field as an inspector. That's kind of our final test. So that's kind of a bird's eye glance at our training process we have for our inspectors.
No, that's excellent. That's good stuff, man. And I'm sure the listeners out there are taking notes. It's good stuff. Well, Matt, tell me, do you have a success quote you'd like to share with us?
Absolutely. I've heard this been attributed to many different people. However, I will tell you, I can share even two. There's two that stick out in my mind. The first one was given to me by actually a gentleman who was a drum instructor of mine at high school. His name was Paul Cook. Paul told me one time, he said, an amateur practices until he gets it right. A professional practices until he can't get it wrong.
Oh, cool. I like that. Hey, before you say your next one, can I add one to that?
Sure.
I heard one similar, and I can't remember who this is attributed to, but I heard that, let's see, how did this go? An amateur does it when he or she's inspired. A professional does it with a headache. I thought that was pretty good.
I think that is good.
But go ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but it was pretty along the same lines. But go ahead.
No, that's absolutely fine. And I agree with you. I like that too. I mean, the thing about when you're in business for yourself, or when you have, in my case, a lot of gentlemen or even ladies who are depending on you to be able to bring in the business, then that sometimes is a rocky road. Sometimes, as much as I love the inspection, sometimes you're going, gosh, this is so stressful. I don't even know if I want to get out of bed this morning. But you find the courage and the willpower, and of course, even when it's not fun, you get out of bed and you do your job, and you do it with enthusiasm, and you do it with love. That separates an amateur from the professional. I absolutely agree with that.
Good stuff. And did you have a second one you were going to?
I did, and this one specifically keeps in mind, I think it can apply to doing the inspection, but I also know that a lot of us as inspectors do office presentations as well, and so this relates to speaking as well. One thing that I've really worked towards honing is my speaking skills in the past few years. As a musician, this little guy was one of my favorite musicians growing up. I played in jazz combos. That's where I cut my teeth. So Oscar Peterson, the jazz piano player, he was always kind of an inspiration to me. And I remember they asked him one time, well, Oscar, tell me, what goes through your mind when you take a solo? Mm-hmm. And he thought better for a second. He said, that's a really good question. What goes through my mind when I take a solo? Well, let's see. I guess the thing that goes through my mind when I take a solo is, well, here goes.
I like the build up, and then
the thing that resonated with me on that is Oscar Peterson worked tirelessly to
right.
be a great jazz piano player. But when you get in that moment where you just got to go, when you get in that moment where you got to do the inspection or you're about to do the office presentation, you just need to have been prepared enough where you can trust your training and go, all right, well, I've done everything I can do. Here we go. Let's do it. So I really like that.
No, I wholeheartedly agree with you, Matt. I think you do all your homework, or like for a presentation, I practice it on the front end. But right before you go on stage, you need to be loose. So I also heard a speaker say one time, don't even think about it. I know that sounds a little crazy, but it's almost like if you're worried too much about it at that point, you're going to be all stiff and not – you need to come out there and be lively and be so prepared that you're coming off like you're relaxed and you know your stuff, not this stiff, I'm trying to get in every single point. Don't even worry about it. Just like you said, do all your homework on the front end and trust your training, trust your preparedness, and get out there and relax and have a good time. People like that. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. The times when I was the best were the times when I wasn't even thinking about it. I wasn't overthinking it. I just said, you know what? I know this. I've done this. I've worked to this point. Let's just go out and do it. The times when I was wooden, the times when I was stiff, the time when I was nervous, when I started rolling over my words and everything like that, that was when I was overthinking it.
Yep, and for all home inspectors who are out there listening, if you do a presentation, I know if you're not used to getting in front of people, it's nerve-wracking, but just think this. If you're speaking about, no matter what you're speaking about, but probably if you're speaking about anything home inspection related, you are the most qualified person in that room. There's nobody else in that room that knows more than you do on this subject. So relax. I mean, it'd be one thing if you had to get up and talk about, astrophysics or something. But you're talking about the thing that you do every day. So relax. Well, sorry. Did you have something else?
I just wanted to add on that real quick. And this is something I'm sure you would agree with me on, is the best way to get that going is try to make them laugh. When they're laughing, they like you more. And then when you use humor points and you got them laughing, they're going to like you more. So I found that a good joke, it kind of breaks the ice.
Cool. I'm with you. Just don't say a joke about any part of the country that, I've learned that the hard way. Because guaranteed there'll be somebody from that part of the country in the front row. But anyway, I digress. Flashback. So let's, I'm sort of doing a combination here with Matt. Matt I actually have a vendor set of questions and a set of questions for multi-inspector firms, and he's sort of both, kind of like Dan. Dan was actually a triple threat. He had been all, the realtor, the whole. But let me go back to that question. Tell us a little bit about MIC, and I know, in 2 minutes or less. Tell us a little bit about MIC and what they offer and what you guys offer inspectors.
Perfect. Okay. The Millionaire Inspector community, we're a coaching and consulting group, and what we're really here to do is we help inspectors make the phone ring, first of all. We help you get more business as an inspector with various marketing techniques that we've tested, we've tried, and that they've been proven to work. Because we test everything at TexInspect, and if it works at TexInspect, then we transfer it over to the Millionaire Inspector community side, and we share with you, and we show you what's working for us. Not only that, but also, if we've got the phone ringing, we can show you how to take your business to the next level. We can show you how to, if you're looking to grow to a multi-inspector firm, we can show you how to add that next inspector and systematize your business in a way where you can grow your inspector firm to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 plus inspectors. Or if you want to be a single-man inspection firm, which there's a whole debate in the industry going on right now, multi or single. I'm not one of those guys that's rah-rah either way. I know plenty of single-man inspection firms that are awesome. I have a whole lot of respect for those guys. So if you want to be single man, we can just show you how to position yourself in a way where you can raise your prices consistently to where you can kind of position yourself as a consultant and an expert in your market. And that's with stuff we're testing out every single day over at TexInspect.
Sounds great, Matt. And I'm glad you touched on that. And I know a lot of these interviews that I do, I'm trying to interview single man and multi. You know, I own a multi-inspector firm, but there is absolutely nothing wrong with a single man inspection firm. And one day I may go back to that. There's pluses and minuses on both. And, you know, and you're right. There's a debate, but there's nothing wrong with being single or multi. And I do want to put that out there too. Well, Matt, let me change gears here for a second. Besides being a musician, being a drummer, what do you do in your spare time?
Well, one thing that has really become important to me in the last couple of years is my health. So one of the biggest things I do in my spare time is I try to pencil off time for me, 2 hours usually, but at least an hour, but 2 hours is really where I really hit my stride is in the gym. I love to work out. I love to run. My health and my fitness is very important to me at this age. I'm 29, about to head into my 30s, and so I'm starting to come to the realization that I'm no longer invincible.
Right.
So I usually spend some time at the gym. Another thing I like to do is there's a whole lot of different restaurants in the Dallas-Fort Worth area that are wonderful. So I'm a bit of a foodie as well. And so I don't overdo it, so it basically counteracts everything I just did in the gym.
I was just getting ready to say, it's a good thing you like the gym.
Yeah. And then the other thing I really enjoy is it's something I'm actually trying to get off the ground too. So I found it really awesome when you were doing a podcast is I actually am a big fan of wine and beer and spirits and more of the tasting side. And I'm actually trying to get a podcast started up with a gentleman who works in my office where we kind of discuss craft beer every single week. So that's kind of a little passion of mine and looking to kind of maybe not necessarily in the home inspector field, but follow your footsteps and get into the podcast arena, Preston, but with a different topic. So, well,
cool. Have you ever seen any of Gary Vaynerchuk's the wine? I think he did videos too, or mainly. That's kind of how he got started. Have you ever seen any of those?
That was actually one of the things that inspired me to start that. I was discussing it with somebody else, and I love Gary's stuff. Gary was, for me, a perfect example of somebody who's doing online TV right, not to the point where it's too slick, too polished that the material got, I guess, kind of swept under the rug. Because if you look at some of Gary's earlier videos, the video quality isn't super great. It got much better as time progressed, but his content was incredible. Yeah, I love Gary Vaynerchuk.
Yeah, well, and the good thing he did was he brought the knowledge of wine to the common folks like me. Like, I don't know, what wine's supposed to go with the grape, but he breaks it down. And maybe you could do the same thing with craft beer because that's a whole, I would love to be able to entertain a conversation about craft beer, but I'm not smart enough. Maybe if you could, not smart enough in that area, but maybe you could help me out with that.
Well, absolutely. I mean, that's actually the avenue we're going through is that common guy's approach to craft beer. We're not sommeliers. We don't run our own brewery. We're nothing like that. In fact, the name that we're working under is we're trying to come from that approach of we're just a couple of common guys who really like craft beer. So the name of the podcast, once we get it going, is going to be called The Beer Morons.
Oh, cool. I like it. That's like that whole book of that whole series of books for dummies. They're like, how about WordPress for dummies? But it's over my head. That's sad. That's pretty sad. But I wanted to back up on one other thing you said, Matt. You were talking about working out and being a foodie, and something else you said in your interview. I work out a lot too, and initially I did it for girls, like you said. You did the band thing for girls, but now I do it just so that I can eat. Without guilt, so I can have the nachos Belgrande, Well, let's switch over to Tex Inspect now, if it's okay. And Matt, you know as well as I do that if you do enough inspections, you're going to have an unhappy camper. How do you handle unhappy campers? Do you have a process? What's that look like?
Absolutely. And And the bigger you grow, then, you know, if you do enough inspections, I absolutely agree. You're going to have unhappy campers. We do have unhappy campers. I'd just like to take a moment to brag on our office that where our phones were answered. They are exceptional at handling up unhappy campers. I have literally listened to calls where somebody screamed at one of our, we called them client coordinators, one of our client coordinators for a good 4 minutes. And she never went down a decibel, but she stayed in control. She was calm. She was professional. That, in my eyes, is how one way that you should deal with an unhappy camper. Sometimes, and I'm just as much as guilty of this as anybody, we let our own, I don't want to say ego, but we don't want to feel like we are in the wrong. So sometimes we can get a little defensive. That doesn't necessarily diffuse the situation. Really what I found is unhappy campers, the biggest way to diffuse a situation is make them feel like they're being listened to and that their concerns are legitimate. So that's the one thing we do. We absolutely, as soon as we find out that they're unhappy, we say, oh, absolutely, I'd love to get a little bit more information so that we can resolve this situation. Why don't you tell me a little bit about the problem? And then we have a form where we fill out where the nature of their complaint, who it is that's calling in, because we know that there's so many people involved in this transaction that ends up transferring over to the home inspection process. We take a good hard look at what we're doing, and then we of course tell the person, okay, we're going to go ahead and we're going to pass this up to our general manager. So at that point, we let the inspector, our inspector manager, and our general manager, we send them a copy of the form, and our senior manager, Mark Crow, as well. And we determine where to go from there. We actually have one of our inspector manager's jobs, Charles, is to then call those people back and let them know that their concerns have been heard, that Charles is working on their concerns because he's the inspector manager, and then we look towards finding that solution.
Right.
So that's kind of once again, a bird's eye view at our process.
No, that is good stuff. That's good stuff. Well, Matt, we're going to get into some I made it moments and a time when you failed. But first, well, I'll admit this probably doesn't have much to do with home inspection, but it will help me pay for this podcast. If you're in need of anything to hang on the wall along the lines of art, go to PrestonSandlin.com. Check it out. You can click on there if you're interested, and it takes you to Fine Art America, some of the stuff I've done. And you can have all kinds of things, phone case covers, all different size art things. So if you're looking for a gift or something like that, you like this podcast, they'll help me pay for this podcast. That would be awesome. And if you can prove to me that you bought something from it and I see you at a conference or something, I'll buy you an adult beverage. Thanks a lot.
All right. Well, we're back here with Matt. Matt Smith of Tex Inspect and MIC. Matt, tell us about a time when you failed. Take us there and what you learned from it.
Okay, I'd be more than happy to. I remember when the time that really sticks out for me when I failed was when I had to close down a company that I was partnered with. At one point in my life, I was 25 years old at the time. I alluded to it a little bit earlier, but I had basically come from being in a position at that time where, with the radio industry being as crazy as it was, I was actually working independent sales, and at one point I was only making about $300 a month. So basically all of that money was going towards making sure I had a roof over my head, and I was basically scrounging to find any food I could. I was borrowing
noodles.
Yeah, oodles and noodles. Sometimes I was even, sometimes I'm not proud to admit, but I was even dumpster diving. Just
really?
to keep food. Oh, yeah. of course, then I found a night job where I was working janitorial, so I was literally scrubbing toilets to make sure I kept the roof over my head. Mm-hmm. I went from that to actually finding a gentleman who was like me, actually a transplant to Texas from Minnesota, and we kind of worked up a partnership where we were going to run this online marketing company. Well, like most startups, we ended up running out of capital, and I remember he told me, I'm going to go back to the other job I do. And you can take this on as kind of a commission basis, but we don't really have money anymore to make sure that we're paying ourselves a salary. So I remember sitting in a bar on Halloween night going, what am I going to do? I don't have a job now. And I've said it before to other people, and it absolutely rings true, though. From my greatest failures have come my greatest successes, because it makes you hungry to go back out there and do better. And that's when I reached out to a couple of contacts. One of the people turned out to be Mike Crow, and that has been probably the greatest thing that's ever happened to me. I mean, it got me into the inspection industry. It got me to really get to know a lot of people that I consider very good friends this day. Some of the people that you've even interviewed on this show. So it turned out to be one of the greatest things that ever happened to me was that company closing down, because if it hadn't happened then, I would have never been where I am now.
Cool. Well, that brings me to my next question, and you may have already answered it, but well, Matt, tell me, on the other end of the spectrum, I used to call this an I made it moment, but I kind of hate that because we never feel like we've totally made it, because we always feel like there's room for improvement. How about I've come a long way moment? Have you had one of those moments?
I absolutely have, and it happened last year. For those who are listening that don't know, one of the things that we do at the Millionaire Inspector community is we have a big event in February called 3 Days of Secrets Revealed. And we had about 300 people or so in the audience. And I believe even you were there, Preston. And I went up and I gave a presentation on how to really get the most out of the marketing people that work with you, and how to train your first marketing person, and how to systematize the marketing if you're doing it yourself, so that you can bring a marketing person on later. And it was the greatest presentation I ever gave, and I even got kudos back from people who trained me. Jonathan, who taught me a lot about speaking, he said, "Now I know that you've arrived, my friend." He said, "That was the greatest presentation. That's one of the greatest presentations I've seen anybody ever give." And it felt really good to be standing up in about 300 plus of people I would consider my brethren at this point, and really know that I had something of value to share with them, and then have them receive it. So that was one of the proudest moments of my life so far.
Good job. Good answer. Matt, well, tell me, just switching gears here just a little bit, tell me, do you have a favorite book that you could recommend to our listeners, and what is it about that book that appeals to you?
I have two. Well, man, I could go on and on about books. I'm gonna try and pare it down to just maybe one or two, because I could talk about this book, that book, but for different subjects. I'm gonna do an all-purpose one. I'm gonna say there's two that really appeal to me, and they're for different reasons. So both of these books basically changed my life. One of them was Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, which is kind of a more well-known and celebrated book. It's kind of had a resurgence in business in recent years. And the reason that book really appealed to me was, I guess, it was the first time I had ever really connected the fact that mindset and the way you think about business, the way you think about things, that's really going to determine the level of success you have. It does play a factor, and it completely changed my mindset, and it changed the way I viewed how I was looking at business, and not only how I was looking at business, but how I was looking at myself. And I've gotten into a lot of Napoleon Hill's other things at that point, but to me, Think and Grow Rich is probably that big accessible book. And it's something I would really suggest to just anybody who's an entrepreneur of any kind. The other book I would suggest is a little lesser known one, but it's still great. It's it was written by a guy who was a plastic surgeon called Dr. Maxwell Maltz.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, I think you know where I'm going with this, right?
Yeah, go ahead.
Psycho-Cybernetics is the name of the book. And the reason that I like that book, don't let the title mislead you. It's nothing that's, I guess for lack of a word, new agey or something like The Secret, where it's that mindset of if you just think really hard, everything good that you ever need in life will come to you. As we all know, that's not true. You got to put some sweat equity behind what you're doing. Right. But in Psycho-Cybernetics, there was one passage I remember that basically blew the book wide open for me, and it's something that I've never forgot to this day. He's talking about success, and it was the perfect way to describe it. I've never heard it described as perfectly since. He said success is not a straight line. And for a guy like me, I always thought it was. I said, I cannot make a mistake. I need to be 100% perfect. If I'm not 100% perfect, then somehow I'm going to fall off the wagon. He said success is not a straight line. It's actually a series of zigzags. He used it like a guided missile. He basically said a guided missile to hit its target, it needs negative data that it feeds off and goes, okay, well, it can't go there. It tries another location, can't go there, and eventually it hits its target. For us, that negative data as human beings is our mistakes. And I go, whoa, that's something I hadn't thought of before, but it's absolutely true. So every time I make a mistake, I come back and I rebound from it with an incredible success story, and it really helped me get over my fear of failure. I'm in my opinion. I mean, of course, you still have those bouts where you are, but yeah, I'm a whole lot less afraid to fail than I used to be after reading that book. So, Psycho-Cybernetics would be the other book I'd recommend.
Matt, I love that book too. It's been a little while since I actually listened to it on Audible, but I love that book. I wanted to add to something you said too. Success is not a straight line, and I know you said you initially thought that was. And something else that I used to think was that if you worked really hard and you busted your tail and you had some success, everybody would love and admire you for your hard work. Not true, my friend. There will be some haters out there, and there'll be some trolls, and it's just like when you're not moving the needle or you're not successful, you don't experience these trolls or these haters, and then all of a sudden when you get a little bit of success, you get a taste of some of this venom, and you're like, oh my gosh, what the? I mean, and that was hard for me because I was like, I'm trying my best. I'm working as hard as I can. Why? And it's just going to happen. And that's another thing that comes with success. And all the listeners out there, as you grow successful, I mean, there's a lot of perks and benefits that go along with it. But do know that if you're taking some business, you're taking it away from somebody, and friends of those people and counterparts of those people, and they're not always going to be nice about it. So anyway, that's all I got to say. Sorry.
I can totally understand that, and I totally agree with you on that. The one thing that I'd even add on that is if you get in that position where you're going, man, I don't understand. I don't know why it feels like, I got so many people against me. Just look at the majority rule, and you'll find that you've got those satisfied clients, you've got those satisfied customers, and if you listen to those voices, they always drown out the voices of the negative.
Right. No, good stuff. But, and then please don't let it be like, I don't want to put myself in that arena. My favorite quote goes back to, there's one by Teddy Roosevelt. I love it. It's not, and I don't know the entire thing, but it's basically summed up. It's not the critic that counts. It's the person that's in the arena with the mud and dirt on their face, who's out there every day trying to do good. And even though they fail, they try again and again. That's the person that counts. So, don't play small just because you're afraid of a few critics. But anyway,
absolutely.
Moving right along. Well, Matt, tell us at Tech Inspect, do you guys have any ancillary services? What do you guys do to offer more value to your client?
Okay, we do a couple of things. So we do additional inspections in addition to the home inspection. So what we do, we offer termite inspections. We offer swimming pool inspections. We offer sprinkler system inspections. We even, although it's not as prevalent in Texas, we still do offer it because there have been instances where there have been elevated levels. We do radon inspections. We do well inspections. We do functional septic system inspections. Let me see if I can remember any more. We have we actually internally have a termite warranty program. So this is one way that we provide more value even after the inspection process to our home buyers. Is we give them the option we give them a free 90-day termite warranty and carpenter ant warranty, because termites and wood-destroying insects are pretty prevalent in Texas where we're at.
Right.
We basically warranty every single home for 90 days that we inspect termites or carpenter ants for free. And if they find termites or carpenter ants at that time, we'll get it treated for a small deductible. They have the option to extend that warranty out over a lifetime, or we just bill them quarterly for it, and it's something extremely reasonable. I think it's along the lines of maybe $12 a month. And they have the option then, if they ever find termites or carpenter ants in their home, we'll come out and we'll have it treated for free.
Okay, cool. Now, Matt, I know you've only been in the inspection business for 3 years, which in one sense is a lifetime, but there's probably some listeners that have been, around a long time. But you're a pretty sharp guy. What do you think will change in the future?
I think what you're going to see is you're going to see even more of a shift. We've already started to see it, and it's really only the beginning stages. But you're starting to see more people view themselves as business owners and less as the doer of the technical. That's going to be, I think that's going to be more of the norm rather than just the, I'm trying to find the word. That's going to be the norm rather than just the exception. Right. And I think you're going to find, because of that, you're going to see a lot more. I'm hoping so. You're going to see a lot more guys, hopefully around my age, that can come in here and say that, I might not have gray hair, and I'm not taking anything away from the guys with the experience. Please don't look at me that as saying that. But I might not have the level of experience, but I do have something I could bring to the table, and I actually want to be involved in this industry as well, because there are some very rewarding things in the inspection industry. I mean, I get a great deal of reward and joy out of my job, and I'm hoping that you'll see a lot more young guns as well in the inspection industry. Maybe not doing the inspections because experience definitely plays a factor. Although I am seeing more younger guys get into the inspection industry, but you're going to see a lot more companies that have marketing people, hopefully, and basically a view of an inspection company not just as one guy in a truck, but as a building consultant firm. I think that's what you're going to see a change in the future.
Yeah, and our industry has evolved. I mean, it's basically only formally been around since the 80s. We had a couple of other inspectors on this podcast earlier that told us about the history of it. There was a court case out in California, but basically like kind of the early mid-80s, I think. So we're seeing it evolve. But anyway, moving on to the next question. You mentioned gray hair. Speaking of this, a good tie-in, gray hair or no hair, because this will cause it to turn gray or fall out. Have you been thrown under, or Tech Inspect been thrown under the bus by a contractor? I know I have. How do you guys handle it? Do you have any ideas how to prevent it, or at least contain it, I guess?
Okay. Yeah, well, absolutely we've been thrown under the bus by a contractor. I know it happens quite frequently. You got that guy who wants to I mean, I don't know if he's trying to up his ticket rate or something, but he goes, I don't know how your home inspector didn't handle that, or I didn't know how your home inspector didn't catch this, and of course we're the ones that are to blame, and I don't know if I've ever had it.
My contractor, I'll help you out. You get a call, and the call is, you did an inspection for me. If they say more than like 6 months ago, they're not calling you to tell you did a good job. You did an inspection for me 6 months ago, and my contractor said you missed this. Go. That's where you're at right there. So
we've gotten those calls, absolutely, and thankfully it's never happened with a foundation company or anything like that, because that's the one I always think. You know, they're giving the estimate for free so that they can go ahead and get you on the say, well, you need foundation work. Obviously, we've never had that happen with a foundation company or anything like that, but I know we've had contractors come out and tell us, you know, throw us under the bus, and yeah, I mean, we handle it the same way that we would handle our unhappy campers. You know, right. We listened to the complaint at first. We made sure that they realized that they had somebody that was actually legitimately paying attention to their concerns. We sent it out to our inspector manager at that point, and then of course that's where the inspector's level of expertise comes into play, and they say, actually, we can show you in this report that's just not the case.
Right.
And as far as prevented or contained, that to me, I see that as a really good question. I've thought about that often, and honestly, the only thing I can think of is maybe, opening the lines of communication, not necessarily getting in bed with the contractors or anything like that, but at least opening the lines of communication where there's not this great divide between contractor and inspector, because right now there is.
Right.
But open up the lines and say, hey, fellas, it doesn't need to be this way. Let's see if we can have some kind of a civil discourse here, not necessarily where we're working in cahoots with each other or anything like that, but where we're not being thrown under the bus so that you guys can somehow benefit from it. And of course, that probably on the other end of the contractor's line, they probably have their own concerns where they feel like they're not being listened to. So I would say one of the ways to prevent or contain that situation, because it does happen, would be to, open the lines of communication between contractor and home inspector, and see what both sides have to say and how we can actually come to some conclusion.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. We all ultimately want what's best for the client.
Yes.
And I have no problem if we miss something that we should have found. We step right up to the plate. But the problem I have is when the contractor is trying to turn a $200 job into a $2,000 job and sell them something they don't need. And again, I think if you like you said, have the lines of communication and say, look, if you screw those people, I probably shouldn't say that on this, sorry, and screw me, I mean, all right, you're going to get this job, but you're not getting any more. Whereas you do right by these people, do right by us, get many more jobs down the line. And, the longevity, it's just, the golden rule. But anyway, enough of that. Well, Matt, moving on to the next question, which is kind of a little bit of the same. One thing that bothers me is contractors who use fear to sell a buyer something they may or may not need. Sometimes the inspector gets caught up in this, as the contractor will falsely say, your inspector should have caught this. It also seems as if more and more liability is being put on the inspector. Other professionals have a strong lobby. Does it worry you that we don't? But before you answer that, let me add a little something to this. I've had several run-ins with mold people. And, they come in and they say, and don't get me wrong, there is toxic mold out there. There is. I'm not denying that. But I also have run into some mold remediation salesmen where all they want to do is sell those people mold remediation and don't even want to test. And that bothers me. I'm like, whoa, you guys not even testing to see, well, no need or whatever. And I'm like, what do you mean no need? I mean, you're treating it as though it's toxic and you haven't even tested. I don't know. Anyway, I guess I should let you answer the question. What are your thoughts on this?
I agree with you. And, yeah, I mean, you got the contractors who come in and use fear to sell the buyer. And, that is a sticking point. That does stick in my craw a little bit, Preston. I will agree with you because we get such a bad rap as inspectors of being the doom and gloom guys, which I know plenty of inspectors that are at Texas Inspect, we like to call it the Goldilocks approach. We're not too hot. We're not too cold. We're not alarmist, but we're not certainly going to sweep anything under the rug. We call it right down the middle. We get that bad rap as inspectors of being the doom and gloom guys and the fear mongers. But you have these contractors who come in and they do it all the time, and we get thrown under the bus. So, yeah, I mean, we are in a position as inspectors where liability is put on our shoulders. We take a lot of liability on our shoulders. I would say, I believe you alluded to it. Other professions do have a strong lobby. And I think that the process is coming to where we're getting that. There's actually, I believe it's the American Society of Home Inspectors. They have somebody that goes to Washington as a lobbyist. There's a political action committee for home inspectors that's starting, and I think it's one of the things that is sorely needed for the industry. And I think it's one of the things that can really benefit the industry is to have somebody go to Washington who's got, as inspectors, our best interests in mind. So it's recently started to happen. I'm excited to see where it goes.
No, I'm with you, Matt, and I hope it does happen. And this is me getting on my soapbox. My problem is that all this infighting. It's like this organization or that. It's almost like Democrats and Republicans. Nobody wants to do what's right if the other party is going to get credit for it. You know what I'm saying? Where I wish that, look, there's some things we need to do as an industry. I don't care if they're a member of that organization or this organization or that coaching group or that coaching group, and you don't like them. This is us, home inspectors as a whole. Let's stop the infighting, and not like somebody or, claw like cats, just because we don't, I don't know. Anyway, enough of my soapbox. All right. Well, Matt, I want to ask your opinion on something. I'm bothered by sometimes what I see on home inspector forums, although I do want to give a shout out to there's a group out there, I think it's Professional Home Inspectors Group. Gary Smith is the guy who's running this. He has been doing a good job. He has actually thrown some people off of this forum for using, language inappropriate, being disrespectful, basically. And I know we're all grown men, but I have a rule, it's all right to disagree, but not disrespect. And you know where that line is. But, I want to give a shout out. That forum so far has been pretty good. But there's a lot of forums where negativity starts flowing, and this leads to some other, we want to beat our chest. I'm this organization, I'm that organization. My dad was building houses when he came over on the Mayflower, and yada, 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 and I know everything, and you don't know anything. And it's horrible. It's horrible. I mean, do you have any ideas how, as a group, as an industry, we can keep it positive and professional?
I do, and I'll say I've probably seen some of that sentiment on some of those forums that you have. It's actually gotten me to the point where, while I feel I have something I can contribute, I don't necessarily want to at times out of fear that I might become a target.
Exactly. As soon as you say something, I mean, it's like, why would anybody even want to go on this thing when they're going to get attacked? I mean, anyway, sorry.
I think one of the things that contributes to that is sometimes this notion of other home inspectors in my market equates to the enemy.
Right.
And for me, you could ask other guys in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. I don't know all of the people that work in my market, but they are competitors, but I'm very friendly with them. I know that they bring things to the table too, and while I want to do as many inspections as I can to grow my company, That doesn't necessarily mean that I need to see those guys and go, I'm taking work away from you, and I don't like you. You're the bad guy. You know, I have a lot of respect for the other guys in my area. So I think more positivity, and instead of just seeing competitors as, oh, well, that's that jerk that lives down the block from me. I try to always be friendly with the other inspectors in my market, especially because considering Texan Spec's position in the marketplace, I kind of view myself as kind of having a responsibility to I guess it's like that Spider-Man quote, with great power comes great responsibility. I see myself as, you know, if I'm going to be the marketing manager of a large inspection firm in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, if I was starting out in the inspection world, how would I want those guys to be if I approached them? If I approached the general manager of Texan Spec and I was just starting out in the industry, would I want them to be rude and rebuff me and kind of turn their nose up at me? Or would I want them to sit down and actually go, you know, this is a good industry to get into, and if there's any way that I can help, then let me know, because in my opinion, a rising tide raises all ships.
Absolutely. Well, and I want to add something too. You got to realize, and I hope this podcast, and I hope maybe that forum, and we'll get, you know, that jerk that lives down the street may be your competitor, but you know what? He's got kids. He's got a family. He goes to church or whatever. You know, he's a person too, and he's got. I mean, he doesn't worship the devil. I mean, you know, I mean, he's doing what in his mind. I mean, nobody. You know, I know Nixon has said this. Nobody goes out going to do a bad home inspection. And chances are, you know, I've heard this quote, everybody knows something you don't, and you know something everybody else doesn't. So why don't we learn from each other instead of, you know, trying to point out what I know that you need to know. Anyway, enough of that. Well, moving on, Matt, and now I know you don't do the inspections personally, but I'm sure you've heard many stories. And keep in mind, this is a G-rated show with this question. What is the wildest, craziest, or weirdest thing you heard of your guys have found on a home inspection?
Well, I'll tell you two stories. I'll tell you one that I've experienced personally because I have been on a home inspection. I've been on a couple, and then I'll tell you one that kind of got passed around the table at our biweekly inspector meeting because I attend every single one of those. Okay. The first one I saw was my first day on the job. My first day on the job. I mean, the way I got hired at Texan Spec, it was kind of a whirlwind thing. I talked to Mike on Monday night, and he basically told me, show up the next day at 6 o'clock a.m. at IHOP on Tuesday morning, and if you're there, I'll know you're serious about it. So I showed up at 5:30, and Jonathan said, okay, well, I was wearing a suit because, of course, I wanted to set my best foot forward. And Jonathan said, okay, well, you got any change of clothes? I said, no, I really don't. He said, well, we're going to go on an inspection. So we went out there, and the first job I saw, there were homeowners' belongings strewn everywhere when we walked in the house. Like, it looked like they were, I can assume they were in the process of moving, but literally everything in the living room. I actually took, you know, we took a picture, and I used it in my presentation, one of my presentations at the real estate offices, kind of as an icebreaker joke, because there was homeowners' belongings everywhere in the living room. Half of the stuff wasn't even accessible. I mean, you had like racks and racks and racks of clothes, furniture, all over the place. I'm like, man, I don't even know how we're going to get anywhere around here.
Wow. Was it a foreclosure or something?
It was actually, I don't recall. I don't think it was a foreclosure. I just think that they were moving and they didn't take the time to move their belongings out, and so it was accessible to the inspector.
Right.
And then the other one that got passed around at the table at one of our most recent inspector meetings, and this one always makes me laugh, was well, it makes me laugh because nobody got hurt. It could have been a potentially disastrous situation, but our inspector manager and one of our other inspectors, they were up inspecting in an attic. And there was this little, well, it wasn't little, it was actually big, but there was this big black wire swinging back and forth in like the middle of the attic. And one of the inspectors didn't realize that it was live. So he's kind of walking around it, and at one point he told me his head was right next to it. And as Charles, our inspector manager, is testing some things, he turns around and goes, "Oh, by the way, that wire's hot." It's got a very high voltage level. So that was probably one of the craziest things I heard was, that the voltage level was real high, and they were working in dangerous circumstances up there. And it's a reminder just of some of the perils that the inspectors in the industry go through on a day-to-day basis too. So it's a really good learning lesson. Always act as if that wire is hot.
Absolutely. Always assume. Yeah, I have two rules: act as the wire's hot, and act like the snake's poisonous. I don't care. That way you're safe. That way you're safe. I don't assume that it's not. Just assume that it is, and you're covered. Well, Matt, do you have a training or internet resources you'd be willing to share with everyone?
Training or internet resource as far as what goes?
Well, like an app or something that you use that would be helpful, or something along those lines, or training resource or something like that would be helpful.
Okay. One of the biggest apps for me, I would share with everybody is as going in and out of the offices every single day. I do about as much driving as inspectors do, and one of the things that started to diminish for me was, well, my gosh, I love continuously improving my education and my personal development, and I love reading, but I can't sit down for anything for a book except over lunch. So how do I remedy this? I started using audible.com, and just about any business book or any personal development book you can find, they have on audible.com. I've been astounded at the dearth of the selection they have. And so I started taking the opportunities with driving between offices, and I actually got this idea. I want to give credit where credit is due. I got this idea from Jonathan, because Jonathan, actually, when Jonathan was inspecting, Jonathan would drive from inspection to inspection, and he'd be listening on Audible. So I started listening to that, and I started to get through a whole lot more of these books because I was on the road so much that I would be going through a book a month, or if they were shorter reads, a book in a couple of weeks, and it was great for me. That was one of the biggest things that I used as far as an app or an online resource. We created an Audible account, and now the two other marketing people that I manage, I have them drive around every day, and when they're on the road, I have them listen to Audible, and we do what we call end-of-day reports. So they send me a resource. They send it through email, basically describing how their day went. And of course, we also do calls between the marketing people and myself at the end of the day. And one thing that I always look for in those reports is one thing they learn from the book they're listening to, so that I know they're continuously stretching themselves. And I think that's very, very important. So Audible would be the resource I would suggest for all the inspectors out there, all the marketing people, or even entrepreneurs who might be listening to this who drive to a lot of appointments. Audible is the way that I get my reading done. And somebody told me, and it's rung true, and it's always stuck with me, is that successful people, they read about a book a month.
Yeah, no, that's excellent, and I'm glad you said that. Actually, I'm in the process of working out something with Audible for all the listeners of this podcast, where I'll have a thing on my homepage where it's either going to be a free month or a free book that they can get. So look for that on the homepage. That'll be coming soon. But yeah, I love Audible too. Well, Matt, what's the best part of your job and why, and what's the worst part of your job and why?
Okay, I've got a whole lot of different things up in the air as far as the best, because in addition to doing the marketing for Tax and Spec, I also work on the Millionaire Inspector Community arm. So the best part of my job, would probably say, was for Millionaire Inspector Community, all the travel I get to do. I get to travel. I mean, just to give you an idea of where my travel led me just in the past couple of weeks, I went from Philadelphia to Las Vegas to Sarasota, Florida. So I got a little bit of the snow and the cold in Philly because it was in January. But on the flip side, it was freezing in Dallas the next week, and I'm over here in sunny Las Vegas and then sunny Florida So
cool. Cool.
I definitely avoid some of the cold weather.
Right.
So I really love that part of it. I love getting out and seeing different things. Banff, Canada, I got to see last year, which was just amazing. Just one of the things that I'll always hold with me for the rest of my life. And of course, getting to meet all these all the different inspectors. I mean, some of the people that are clients of the Millionaire Inspector community have turned into what I hope to be lifelong friends, but definitely friends of mine, very close friends. I remember I went to Phoenix to visit family over Christmas holiday, so I went back to Phoenix to see my folks.
Right.
But there's a couple of home inspectors in that area that I've gotten to know quite well, and so I made a couple of social calls on them too, and we ended up having dinner and lunch with them, and that was really cool to know that no matter where I travel in the country, I've always got a friend.
Cool, good stuff.
Well, Matt. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, I was going to say the as far as the worst part of the job. I mean, I'm trying to think. Of course, there's always days that you go, gosh, what a stressful situation. The worst part, I guess, must be handling the different complaints that you get, because sometimes you do get them. But I always even try to turn that into a positive, because when I see somebody that has a complaint, it gives me a chance to basically reposition where I say, this person might be upset now, but I've got an opportunity to show them once again that we have the opportunity to make them once again into happy clients or happy customers just by listening to them and seeing how we can address their needs and finding a win-win situation for everybody. So I see it as an opportunity too, and then that's kind of changed my mindset on that.
No, that's good stuff. My daughter, 1 year, I forget what grade she was in. I have two girls. When you got, they have like a, you know how you have a chart in the class, you get in trouble, you got to move your clip, and, it escalates depending on how much trouble you get into or whatever. Well, that teacher's disciplinary thing, you had to fill out a refocus form. And I thought that was awesome. I was like, I need to give some of my inspectors a refocus form sometimes, but anyway. Well, Matt, is there anything you're working on right now that has you jacked up or excited?
Oh, heck yeah, man. At the end of February, 3 Days of Secrets Revealed is coming up, and we are working to make that event our biggest and best yet. And we're trying to make we're trying to have a whole lot of value. Every single year we try to outdo ourselves. So we're in the prime time, fever pitch time for that right now. So every single day I'm working towards, as the rest of the team is, working towards making that the biggest and best event yet. And that's really what I'm working on right now. Of course, I'm going to be speaking at least once, maybe a couple of different occasions, and I just love getting up there and talking to. It's one of the things that the speaking aspect of it keeps me going. I love it. It's one of the things that really drives me. So getting up there, doing some speaking, and of course helping everybody that's coming. Those are going to be the 3 Days of Secrets Revealed is the thing that we're really jacked up and excited about right now. I can't wait. It's going to be at the end of February. So.
Cool. And Matt, I appreciate it. I'm sorry we've gone like a little bit over time, but it's been a great conversation this morning. I know the listeners also appreciate it. Just got 3 more questions.
Okay.
Matt, if you had to move to a brand new town equal to the size of where you guys are now, I'm saying your entire company, and mainly your inspection arm of it is what this question's geared toward, and you had to start all over, and you had $5,000. But room and board are taken care of. You still have all the equipment, all the same inspectors, basically, but everything's new people. What are you doing with that $5,000 in the first week?
Okay. Do we still have all the staff too, all the marketing staff?
Yep, all that.
Perfect.
All that.
Okay.
Basically, what are you getting the most ROI on, basically, is the question. With $5,000, what would you do?
$5,000? $5,000, I would invest in a very good printer. I get some high quality brochures. If I still had all the same marketing and ancillary services that I have, I would find a good printer. I'd use a portion of that to print out some high quality brochures, some high quality business cards, some high quality flyers, and I would start hitting the real estate offices, letting all the agents know, hey, we're here in town, and we provide a lot of value for your clients. And the other money I'd probably spend on gas getting all the marketing team all across that area. I mean, if we're talking an equal size in place, then if it's like the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, there's a whole lot of area to cover. So
Sure.
that would be my thing, is getting out there and letting them know, hey, we're here in town. Look at what we've got to offer. We're going to take good care of your clients. And you know, we sure would love to get on there. Of course, we'd provide, and it's something we do here in Dallas. We provide home cooked food for every presentation we do in real estate offices, which makes them more willing to listen to us.
Oh yeah, cool. Yeah, you feed them, you get a little time. You get 10 minutes or something.
Yep.
I think there's a trade-off.
So I'd probably use some portion of that money on food. I'd use that. Basically, I'd just find any way that we could take our current marketing initiatives and transfer them to a new area. So
Cool. Well, Matt, is there anything that I didn't ask you that I should have asked you?
Oh, well, you know, I don't think so. I mean, we've even gone overtime because we've covered so much ground. You know, you and me are kind of simpatico in a lot of different ways, and we have a lot of different connecting views on different things about business. So I thought this has been a great conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, in closing, is there anything that you want to ask me?
Sure. Yeah, you know what? I would like to. I've known you for a couple of years now, and you're always a very inspiring and positive guy. So I always wonder, what is it? What's the biggest thing right now happening in the inspection industry that gets you excited for the future of the industry?
Oh, well, first of all, thank you for those words. My family keeps me inspired. I appreciate that. I think it's probably technology. I love technology, and you know, we're starting to use GoPros. In fact, I'm getting ready to go demonstrate right now on all the inspectors so that they can you know, film the inspection process. Now, I know there's some inspectors out there that are going, ugh, but what I want to do is be able to do a virtual inspection where somebody in New Jersey can just actually watch their inspection from their computer while we're doing it here in Charlotte. I haven't got to that yet. But that and the drones, and I know right now the FAA is not allowing it, but I think they're starting to allow a few exceptions, and I think eventually that's going to happen. I mean, for years, Matt, I thought with all today's technology, you know, when you get that slate roof that's real high that you can't walk on, I would say there's got to be a way to inspect that, you know, with all our technology. I mean, I would go on Google Earth and zoom down, and, of course, it would be so pixelated you couldn't see. And I even bought one of those helicopters way back, and I strapped my camera on it. Well, needless to say, I had to buy a new camera after that because it didn't work out so well. But I was first in line to buy the drones. And, yes, we have them. We're not using them yet, not other than just kind of demonstration stuff. We're waiting until the FAA will let us. But to answer your question, I think technology has kind of got me excited. And you alluded to it that I think inspectors are evolving to business owners. And even though I did speak a little bit negatively about how we claw and cat at each other, and, you know, it's kind of, I think Du Bois or somebody said, you know, it's like a bucket of crabs. One crab tries to get out and the other one pulls them back down in. You know, I think we are starting to help each other and realize that this is an industry. And even though we may compete with each other, there's certain industry things we need to all bond together for. So that's got me pretty excited. Does that answer your question?
It does.
All over the place. Well, Matt, you have been more than generous with your time, and I apologize for keeping you over. I know our listeners really appreciate all the stuff that you shared. Is there a way they can get in touch with you or find out more about you?
Absolutely. So there's the best way to get a hold of us there'd be a couple of different ways. I'll give you a couple of different websites.
Okay.
You can go to on the Tech Inspect side. You can go to www.techinspect.com. If you are interested in some of the resources that the Millionaire Inspector community has to offer, you can go to www.homeinspectorblueprint.com, and that will kind of detail out the kind of who we are and things we do. And then if you want to get in contact with me for any reason, I always try to keep an open line of communication. It's one of the things that I've kind of instituted that I'm quite proud of is a lot of the different inspectors in the Millionaire Inspector community, and even people that I've talked to that just wanted to kind of get my idea, pick my brain on a couple of things. I've always given them my personal cell phone, so I don't mind putting that out there to the universe. So if you guys want to call me directly, if you have any questions, I'll give you my personal cell phone. It's actually an Arizona number because it was cheaper to keep my number from Phoenix when I moved. So it's the area code is 480, and then the rest of the number is 686-4888. And if you guys just want to give me a call, hey, I'd love to answer any questions you might have.
All right, Matt. Well, thank you so much for your time. You've been more than gracious, and we'll catch you on the flip side.
All right. Thank you very much, Preston. And you know, I think I have no problem with the conversation going over. That just tells it that we got up into the conversation, and when you know we were so involved, and we got good things out of it. You know, it was not that it was we were stretching for time. It was that we had so much to give that you know we even ran through our allotted time, which to me is a positive. So
absolutely, totally agree. All right, Matt. Well, I wish you the best of luck with the rest of your day.
Hey, you too, sir.
Thank you for listening to the Successful Home Inspector Podcast today. You can find the show links at the successfulhomeinspectorpodcast.com. And tune in again next time. Check out their website for any special offers or books or anything of that nature. Thanks again.